My sister stole the spotlight at my wedding by announcing her pregnancy. She had always wanted to be the star. So I made sure she will shine brighter than ever by announcing her infidelity. My sister brings out a cake in the middle of my wedding to announce her pregnancy just to steal my day as always. But someone has something to say, and now she blames me for ending up without a marriage. 3 days ago, I, a 28-year-old female, got married to my boyfriend of 5 years, Jason, a 28-year-old male. My spoiled younger sister Allison, a 26-year-old female, was also there and planned to steal the spotlight, but unfortunately for her, I was 2 steps ahead the whole time. About a week ago, the baker who was handling our wedding cake told me that my sister had contacted her. She said she wanted another cake for the wedding day, a cake to announce her pregnancy. Allison claimed that I had requested it and had given the baker instructions to contact her, but the baker didn't believe her. She even offered to pay double what I was paying to keep it a secret from me. Fortunately, the baker had ethics and morals and informed me first. As soon as I found out, I realized Allison was planning a stunt to grab attention at my wedding. I could have uninvited her, but I decided to stay ahead of her instead. It was really annoying that she tried to disrupt my special day, which was supposed to be about me. It seemed like she couldn't tolerate my happiness, which upset me a lot. Even though I didn't appreciate her much either, I would never do something so foolish for attention. Anyway, I decided to retaliate, which has now divided the family. My parents are really upset with me for what I did. Let me explain what happened. On the wedding day, everything went smoothly during the ceremony. Afterwards, when it was time to cut the cake with Jason, Allison interrupted. She said she had an announcement and brought out another cake from our baker. Everyone was surprised except Jason and me, because I had already told him this would happen and we had planned for it. Allison's cake was a pregnancy announcement with a message that read, "Congratulations on the new baby," written in icing. People started congratulating her and her husband, and my parents were the worst. They started crying and completely forgot about me. Fortunately, some relatives stayed by my side instead of surrounding her, which was extremely inappropriate since it was my wedding. After everyone finished congratulating her, she had a smug expression on her face and suggested we get back to our wedding. That's when I decided to call the one person who could ruin it for her. Honestly, I didn't even care that this was happening at my wedding. It made things more memorable, especially for my sister. After she suggested we continue, I smiled and told her I was really happy for her, which surprised her. Then I pretended to be confused and asked her to wait because someone special was missing, making the celebration incomplete without that person. That was the cue for my special guest to enter the room as planned. Everyone had been waiting to know who this person was. It turned out to be Allison's ex-boyfriend Jared, a 26-year-old male, who she dated right before her husband Eric, a 28-year-old male. And they used to work together. When they started dating, before Eric, Allison had been with Jared, a 26-year-old male, her college ex-boyfriend. They had been living together, but their relationship had problems because Jared was ready to get married while Allison wasn't. From what I know, there was definitely some overlap. My mom told me Allison started dating Eric 3 years ago, and they've been married for a year, but mutual friends of Jared told me he and Allison didn't break up until almost 2.5 years ago. Last year, at her wedding, I calculated the timelines and concluded that there must have been an overlap. Allison was cheating on Jared and Eric for at least 6 months. Even Jared knew, but he didn't say anything. I didn't speak about it either because I didn't think it was worth it, so no one realized Allison had been cheating on Eric at the beginning of their relationship. However, I didn't think there was a need to hide it anymore since she was doing everything to create drama and seek attention even on my wedding day. That's why, after the baker contacted me about Allison's plan, I let her go ahead with her plan and decided to contact Jared behind her back because I thought it was time Eric knew the truth. There were also some other reasons why I decided to go through with this, which I didn't even know until I talked to Jared last week. I hesitated to involve him in this because it was just drama between Allison and me. He really didn't need to get involved. But as soon as I told him Allison was pregnant and planning to announce it at my wedding, he seemed really shocked. Apparently, she had been in contact with him all these years. It wasn't like she expressed her love or anything, but every few weeks she would ask how he was and what he was doing. Correct me if I'm wrong, but if you've broken up with your ex and are married to someone else, there's no need to stay in contact with your ex, especially when you haven't even broken up with that guy until you were sure of the other one. So she seemed to be doing pretty well, and Jared thought she was deceiving him. He also noticed that she hadn't contacted him in the last few weeks, probably because of the pregnancy. He felt betrayed by her. She made him feel like she still cared even though she was married to someone else and had given him false hope. So when I told him my plan, it took some convincing, but he finally agreed to come. And when he walked into the room on my wedding day, Allison's smile completely faded. Everyone else who knew Jared also stopped smiling, and everything became very tense and awkward. Jared didn't wait long and didn't beat around the bush. He walked straight up to Allison, congratulated her on the pregnancy, and then told Eric how sweet it was of him to let her stay in touch with him even though they had broken up a long time ago and she had been cheating on both of them. Obviously, Eric had no idea about any of this, so he was very shocked. He didn't even know what to say. Once this was done, Jared thanked Jason and me for inviting him and then left. After that, there were a few minutes of silence and then total chaos. Eric started yelling at Allison for what he had just discovered, and then the two of them left angrily. Then my parents started yelling at me for doing something so dishonest and insane just to get back at my sister for something so insignificant and small. But I wasn't interested in that, so I told them that if they didn't like what I did, they could leave too. And they left, along with a couple of other guests who didn't seem to approve of what I did. The people who stayed were a few relatives and most of my friends. Fortunately, not many people left, and we were able to continue with the wedding as planned. My parents were no longer present, and honestly, at that moment, I was fine with that. After all that, no one mentioned Allison before they left. They just congratulated me on the wedding and left. When we got home after that, Jason and I were pretty sure we had done the right thing, and truth be told, we still are. However, the day after our wedding, my parents gave me an ultimatum when they came to visit. They arrived in the morning, and I was quite surprised to see them because the last time we saw each other, I told them they were free to leave my wedding, and they did. But then they entered my house and told me that because of me, my sister's marriage was in trouble. Apparently, Eric, like any sensible human being, was very upset with Allison because she had kept in contact with Jared despite being married to him for almost a year. He was also very upset about the overlap because that meant that technically Allison had cheated on him. And all I did was expose her. I don't think I did anything wrong. If anyone had ruined her marriage, it was Allison herself. I didn't understand why my parents blamed me for that, and I started arguing with them because it seemed very unfair to me. But they told me they weren't here to argue with me. They were just here to tell me that if I didn't apologize to Allison and Eric and tell them that everything Jared had said was something I had suggested as a joke, then they would never speak to me again. It seemed like a really stupid idea to me because even if I said it was all a joke, I don't think Eric is dumb, and I'm pretty sure he would realize that we were trying to cover up what had happened. And most importantly, I really didn't want to do any of that. This wasn't a joke gone wrong. This was the truth, and I think it was important for it to come out eventually. I told my parents I wouldn't apologize for anything, and if they didn't like that, they could take a walk. They started yelling in my face, calling me selfish and petty, because what Allison had done was nothing compared to what I had done. They said I had completely crossed the line and lost my mind because this reflected badly not only on Allison but on the entire family, and it seemed like I didn't even care. Finally, they left. We blocked each other, my mother and I, but I haven't stopped thinking about what they said. Maybe I went a bit too far, but it was Allison who started it, and her initial intention had been to make my wedding day about her. I gave her exactly what she wanted, so I still don't understand how I'm the villain here. Anyway, am I the bad one for ruining my sister's marriage? Update 1. First of all, I have to thank everyone for all the responses. It means a lot to me and my husband that so many people are on our side. I'll also answer some questions that people had for us. Many people wanted to know how I had so many mutual friends with Jared. Basically, Jared and Jason went to the same high school, but since he was a year younger, they weren't close friends. It turns out he was part of the football team, and many of Jason's friends were on that team, so that's how I met Jared. I'm friends with a lot of Jason's friends who were also friends with Jared, and that's how I learned about the relationship, the overlap, and everything. However, Jared and I were never particularly close, and this is the only time we talked a lot while planning this whole thing. Unfortunately, I don't have an answer as to why exactly Jared didn't cut her out of his life after the breakup, even after realizing that she had been cheating on him with Eric. We're not close enough to have had such discussions, and I think that's very personal. I know he's still in love with her, and I feel bad for him, but I'm not a psychologist. I'm not going to get involved unless necessary. We had a plan, he agreed, and that was all we needed to talk about. Beyond that, I don't know anything about his feelings towards Allison or why he did what he did. As for Allison, of course, I wouldn't know what was going through her mind when she tried to stay in contact with Jared even after breaking up with him and being in a committed relationship with Eric. So, unfortunately, I don't have answers for that. Anyway, it's been a week since my wedding, and now I'm completely over all of this. I really don't care if Eric and Allison get divorced or decide to stay together, I just don't care. My parents care a lot, and I understand that. We've already blocked each other, so we're not going to talk anymore. I felt a little bad about it, but I should have known that it would eventually come to this because I always knew my sister is practically the golden child to them. It's sad, but it is what it is. I can't help it. During my childhood, I tried very hard to win over my parents, but my sister was the youngest, so she was special to them. I'm not going to lie, I used to be very jealous of her. But as we grew up, the jealousy turned into resentment, and I just started avoiding her. The only reason she was even invited to my wedding was because my parents insisted and because she had invited me to hers. Regarding what I said about her seeking attention, that part is true. She really can't stand everyone paying attention to me and always wants to make everything about her. That was part of the reason I started avoiding her in the first place. And now, obviously, we're going to stay out of contact with each other. I haven't heard from anyone else in the family yet except for the people I know are on my side. Everyone else has either blocked me or doesn't want anything to do with me, and I'm fine with that. If standing up for myself bothers people so much, then they probably shouldn't be in my life. I haven't kept in touch with Jared either. I just thanked him via text after everything ended on my wedding day, and he replied saying he was happy to have gotten the closure he needed. So, I don't know if she has contacted him yet or not. If she does, I'm pretty sure he'll let me know. But for now, everything is strangely quiet. Somehow though, it's good for Jason and me because we're enjoying our newlywed life, and in a few days, we'll be going on our honeymoon. I just hope and pray that any drama my parents or Allison have to cause, they do it before our honeymoon because once we leave, I'm not going to entertain this nonsense anymore. In fact, even if they try to contact me before that, I know what to do. I will simply put them in their place and end this once and for all because they have all shown me exactly where I stand with them, and it is time for me to do the same with them as well. Update 2. I was right about Jared. He contacted me as soon as Allison texted him. It was yesterday when I posted an update here, and a couple of hours after that, Jared messaged me and said that Allison had called him to ask if they could meet. Apparently, she wanted to talk to him in person. So, he went to meet her at a cafe, but he was in for a surprise when he realized that both Allison and Eric were there. It was somewhat of an ambush, and as soon as he arrived, he was about to leave, but Eric stopped him in his tracks and started yelling at him. He told him to stay away, as if it was Jared's fault. Jared pointed out that he had no problem staying away from Allison. In fact, that's what he had wanted for himself after their breakup because he needed time to heal and move on. But it was she who kept trying to get back into his life and kept in contact with him. So, if Eric wanted to yell at someone, he should probably yell at Allison instead of blaming him. Eric refused to believe any of that and said that Allison had told him that it was Jared who kept reaching out to her and that she was only responding to him out of politeness. But Jared was prepared with proof, so he pulled out his phone and showed Eric the screenshots he had of their conversations. Of course, all of them showed that she was the one who kept reaching out to him. After that, Eric had nothing more to say, so Jared took the opportunity to leave. And I'm pretty sure that after this, there's no way the two of them are going to stay together. When Jared told me all this, he explained that he had gone to see Allison this last time because he really loved her. But because of what she had done, he would never speak to her again, and I think that's good for him. He needs to move on because Allison simply isn't worth it. I also think Eric should leave her because she's definitely confused. I can't imagine doing things like this, not to just one but two guys, one of whom is about to have a baby with you. It's simply disgusting. I'm sure my parents will find a way to justify this as well and try to blame me for all of it. They haven't contacted me yet, but after what just happened, I'm pretty sure they will, and I'm really just waiting for that because I also have a lot of things to say to them. Update 3. 3 days after my last update, my family finally came to visit me. I had mentioned that my parents had blocked me, just like Allison did. Instead of unblocking me and contacting me through messages or calls, they decided to come bother me in person. Still, I invited them in so we could talk and put an end to this strange relationship we had. My parents started by telling me that, throughout my life, they had treated us both equally, but I had always felt jealous of my sister for no real reason. I mean, they had it completely backward. They never treated me equally, but I didn't get angry. I just let them talk because I wanted to see where they were going with this. Then, they told me that on my wedding day, my sister just wanted to share in my happiness, and that's why she had thought of announcing her pregnancy that same day, because she really thought I would be happy for her. But it was clear that I had known about her plan from the beginning and disagreed with it, which is why I arranged that little situation with Jared. It was more obvious that I wanted to embarrass and humiliate Allison, and my parents really couldn't understand why because they obviously didn't think Allison had done anything wrong. They even told me that if I really didn't agree with what Allison was planning to do, then I should have talked to her after discovering her plans to announce the pregnancy when she spoke to the cake decorator and confronted her about it. They said I could have avoided the situation instead of trying to get revenge on her for something so insignificant. Then, they finally told me that because of what I had done in inviting Jared to the wedding and provoking a confrontation between the two, Eric was now filing for divorce. Apparently, Allison had really tried to fight for her marriage, but Eric had made up his mind. This couldn't have come at a worse time because she's pregnant and now has no idea what to do. So, they came to me and demanded that I not only apologize to Allison but also cover all the costs of the divorce process and her medical expenses over the next few months, and even after that, if necessary. Naturally, the entire idea was so absurd that I burst out laughing because I couldn't believe my parents thought I was actually going to do it. They seemed shocked by the fact that I was laughing, and Allison told me she was serious. She said she had the money to cover all of this herself, but because of what I had done, this should be an appropriate punishment for me since I was responsible for ruining a happy marriage. So, I stopped laughing and told her that I hadn't ruined anyone's perfect marriage because, if she had really been clean, she wouldn't have been in contact with her ex from time to time, even if it was just to see how he was doing. She wouldn't have even cared, and there wouldn't have been any ties with him. So, if she really wanted to blame someone, she should probably look in the mirror instead of trying to blame me. Then, I told her that I wasn't going to pay anything at all because, if we were really talking about things being ruined, she had ruined my wedding, or at least she had tried to. And if I hadn't found out beforehand, I would have been completely blindsided, and the entire wedding would have been about her pregnancy. She was simply angry because I had outsmarted her and exposed all her lies to her husband. My parents tried to come to her defense, but I told them that throughout my life, they only thought they had treated us equally, but everyone who knew us knew the truth. They had always been biased towards Allison, and even now they were encouraging her to be selfish and spoiled, even though she had literally ruined her own marriage. To be honest, my parents were partly responsible for her downfall because, if they hadn't spoiled her from a young age, maybe she would have turned out to be a better person. My parents started arguing with me after that, but I told them I wasn't interested in prolonging this discussion any further. We had wasted enough time during that very discussion, and now that they had said what they had to say, I had said what I wanted, and there was nothing more we needed to talk about. They still tried to talk to me, but I just wasn't interested. So, I told Jason to handle them and went back to my room to get some rest because talking to my family was exhausting. Jason stayed out of this discussion because he's a bit hot-tempered, and I'm pretty sure my family and their audacity would have irritated him much earlier, and he would have gotten angry. So, it was better for him to stay out of it for his own sake because I didn't want him to get so worked up over something like this. Anyway, after a while, Jason managed to get them to leave by threatening them with the police, and then it was just the two of us again. I'm glad we were able to resolve this before the honeymoon because now we can fully enjoy it without constantly worrying about what my parents and Allison are doing. Update 4. Jason and I left for our honeymoon 3 days ago, and we are really happy right now. After my parents and Allison left that day, they didn't spare any effort in trying to make me feel bad, especially Allison. They got many relatives who were on their side to text me, telling me that what I was doing was really disastrous and that I had no right to ruin someone's life like that, especially when they're about to have a baby. Honestly, I don't understand why everyone is blaming me because, as far as I'm concerned, I'm just the messenger. So, I talked to Jared about it and we both decided that it was time for everyone to know the truth. He simply posted screenshots of his chats with Allison, and that was all it took, as it clearly showed that she was the one who wanted to keep in touch with him. After he made that post, people started getting even angrier with me, especially Allison and my parents. They thought I was doing everything I could to ruin her reputation and claimed that this was a clear case of defamation. They even threatened to file a defamation lawsuit against me and Jared, but I really don't think it will work because this is the truth, and we're not spreading lies about them. More importantly, if they file a defamation lawsuit against me, I'll simply sue them for harassment. It's give and take, right? Anyway, I think Allison should be more concerned about the upcoming divorce proceedings and custody battle because, if I were in her place, I wouldn't waste my time trying to fight with other people. Fortunately, the people in my family who have been on my side from the beginning have told me they're no longer going to keep in contact with my parents or Allison because it's very obvious they're the problem here. They've been terrible to me all along, and I'm glad that people are finally seeing what kind of people they really are. Initially, I felt a little bad, because the family was divided by what I did, but now I think it was necessary. Anyway, right now Jason and I are going to focus on enjoying our honeymoon because this time will never come again. Unlike my parents and Allison, we don't intend to let them ruin our lives, so we're going to make the most of the time we have here. Update 5. Before I begin with this update loaded with many things, I first need to answer some questions. How could it be that the baby Allison is carrying might not be Eric's? Well, to be honest, I don't know. I don't have any proof that the infidelity continued up until now, and Jared hasn't told me that he suspects it either, perhaps from another man. I don't know. Maybe it's not like she's been faithful her whole life, so the chances of it being someone else's are high if you ask for my opinion. But it's not like I could go to Allison and say, "Dear little sister, is that baby you're carrying from an affair?" I've also been asked a lot why I didn't tell Eric earlier. Well, it's not like we had a relationship or anything like a friendship. If we had been friends, I would have done so for sure. I barely had a relationship with my sister, so with my brother-in-law, I barely interacted with him. Anyway, I have no excuse for that. I should have done it, and I just let it slide. As for the update, a lot has happened since the last one. To start with, we've gone on our honeymoon, and there hasn't been any trouble during that time. The drama came once we returned to our regular lives. To begin with, my mother and her Facebook post. I still regret helping her create an account and teaching her how to make a post. In this post, she talked about how hard it is to be a mother and how, despite giving love to both of her daughters, some are unnecessarily ungrateful because, instead of a heart, they have a cold stone. It's funny because, maybe I'm remembering wrong, but her whole life she treated us differently. And we're not talking about little things but substantial differences, like in the way birthdays or celebrations were held. And I think if you've gotten this far in my story, you can probably imagine what my parties were like compared to Allison's. The worst part is that there was always an excuse to celebrate my birthdays more modestly, like the heater breaking that week or grandma needing money. But when it came to Allison, there was always money, and her parties were full of guests because, at that time, it was possible to celebrate without any reservations. At least, I suppose they tried to cover up their favoritism. I don't know whether to laugh or cry about it. Anyway, my mother made that post, which had an air of superiority because she said things like, "Few mothers are like me." But despite selling herself as the best mother of all, some relatives responded to her post and called her out for lying. So, she spent more time making up that story than actually achieving anything with it. The funny part came from my sister, who got one of her friends to pretend to be some kind of lover of mine. He contacted my husband through social media and told him that he'd been having an affair with me when we started dating. Wow. You could say my sister's plan is a masterpiece. It's clear that my husband didn't believe him at all because, when he asked for proof of it, the guy didn't respond anymore. She thought she could do to me what I did to her, but at least she could have put a little more effort into it. Maybe that guy did it because he's the one sleeping with her, or maybe he's even the father of the baby, which would explain why he got involved in such a circus. It makes me wonder, if she likes getting all the attention so much, why doesn't she enjoy it now? All the relatives and friends are only talking about her divorce and infidelity. The best thing she could do is enjoy it. I don't understand why she would want to take the focus off herself and put it on me. But, well, leaving the sarcasm aside, I think that wraps up the update and also answers some questions.